evening, and welcome to Having a Drink with Mink. I'm your host, Jason Mink, and you caught me in the process of decorating the set. That's right, the big holiday season is right around the corner, and I have my Christmas decoration out. It's dear old Saint Nick, of course. He's making the scene. He always comes out this time of year, I have to say. I found this guy about a decade ago. I was on my way home from work. I was feeling kind of sorry for myself, kicking my way through the slush and the snow, and there he was, lying in the gutter. And, oh sure, he's seen better days. He's got some water staining, he's got some stuff in his beard, but who doesn't? Am I right? But ever since then, Saint Nick has been my Christmas miracle. I figure I'll put him right there. Ha ha! He's already brightening things up. So, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining us on this episode. I hope you have a nice beverage on hand. I know that I do. We're going to get right to it because there's so very much to get to. But first, we begin with comics because, well, it's not always the way. It's Bob Kroll's The Acrobat. That is right. It's fumetti. What's that? No, it's not a delicious Italian dessert. Well, maybe it is. But it's also comics done with photographs. That's right. Bob was inspired by a previous episode of Comics for Breakfast, where I had talked about some fumetti, and he gathered some friends together, and he went out and he shot a story that he wrote himself. It's a comedy of horrors. That is right. It's The Acrobat, and I can't wait to check this on out, especially since, well, I hear that I have a cameo in it at some point, so certainly be talking into this soon. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, well, you can get yourself a copy at the link below. That's right. What do you think, Naked Woody Harrelson? Oh, you can bet he's on board, for sure. All right, and then Bob sent a few more things along. We've got the Nostalgic Mad. That is right. These were fun. These were bound into Mad magazines back in the 1970s, and it was a way of giving the reader a little bit extra, for sure. And these feature reprints from the 1950s Mad comic book, and they have some truly fantastic stories and artwork from all of your favorite creators. You bet. So thank you, Bob. It's great to have that. As well as, hey, it's the Destructor. On Comics for Breakfast, we've been talking about the Destructor, and we haven't gotten to this issue yet. So, the Destructor number 4, coming your way. Watch for that on Comics for Breakfast. Thank you so very much, Bob. Okay, before we get to the rest of these books, there is one other thing. 3 mans. Okay, technically it's 1 man and then some costumes. But how cool is this? It is the Diamond Select reproduction of Mego's Mighty Thor. So as you can see, and if you don't already know, we've got the original Mego version of Thor in a reproduction box, and then we've got the Don Blake outfit along with a head. And then we have a modern version of Thor as well. So, hey, let's crack this on open, see what it's all about. I would use Stabby Joe ordinarily right around this time, but I've been informed he's on walkabout. Ain't that right, Larry? What? Oh, yeah. Larry tells me to make sure that you stick around to the end of this episode because his art film is going to debut at the end of this particular show. Well, in lieu of giving Larry a Christmas bonus, I figured it was the least I could do, so make sure you stay tuned for Larry's art film. And what's the name of that? I can't pronounce that. Make sure you stay tuned. And, okay, so Stabby Joe is not with us. In lieu of Stabby Joe, we are availing ourselves to the services of Sir Basil Snippington. And Sir Basil, well, he always comes through, doesn't he? We're cutting these little gold seals on the side so we can get inside the limited edition collector's set. Put that over there, and then right off the bat, we've got this little ribbon holding all of the items in place. And maybe I should be doing this on a separate 3 Man's $5 episode. I'll put it all back in the box for that. And then here we go. And how cool is that? It is Thor in a repro box, much like you might have bought yourself as a young person back in the day, or as an older person back in the day. Hey, you might still be alive. Who knows? And this is the original Thor. And then, like I said, he comes with these outfits. So, if this wasn't good enough for you, somehow, we could swap them out with Dr. Don Blake here and a modern version of the Mighty Thor. And so we'll certainly be looking at this more in depth in a future 3 Man's $5, so don't you ever miss it. All right, let's talk about old comics, because you're here to hear me talk about old comics. You bet. We're going to start with Action Comics number 323 and Clark Kent in the Big House. That's right. Clark has been incarcerated in one of those jails where they make you wear a magenta jumpsuit. Don't want to end up going there. And then what do we have? Oh, it's Archie. That's right. Now, I know, I usually go overboard on the Archies. I had about 45 of them that I could have showed you, but I winnowed it down. I was really selective this time. I got it down to about 15. This is a great cover. Gosh, a little spicy too, huh? That Ronnie really is something else. Then we have Authentic Police Files. That is right. Don't settle for anything less, folks. And, hey, this caught my eye. Do you want a success-winning voice? I did, before I talk like this. And then I sent my money to a Power Vigor character. Oh, no, wait, that's not the guy. That's just... I sent my money to Eugene Fechtinger. And he hooked me up, and now I have a success-winning voice. And you can have one, too. And then what do we have? It's Betty and Veronica. And then we have some Archie's Pals and Gals. Oh, I quite like this one because I felt that it was pretty groundbreaking for its time. Absolutely. And then what do we have? It's a coverless cutie. And what is that comic, Mink? You might be asking. Well, I made a little notation here, so I would know. This is Beware. That is right. And this is some pre-code horror featuring this phenomenal Jay Disbrow story, The Thing in the Fens. What a knockout, huh? And then what do we have here? Fantasy Masterpieces, #1. That is right. And this is a fun little book. This was reprinting some of those Silver Age pre-superhero classics that had, recently been published, but Marvel, they wanted another dip for sure. For 12 cents, they figured they'd get you once again on Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, and all the rest. All your favorites. And then what do we have? Fantasy Masterpieces. Speaking of reprints, this one is phenomenal because it's got the most requested Malay of the Millennium. It's the original Submariner battling the original Human Torch, exactly as it appeared in 1940. You bet. And then what do we have? It's Forbidden Worlds. And, Pierre, don't you know me? It's Roxanne. You're Roxanne. Ah, get away from me. My Roxanne had eyes. Can we see the splash for this, Larry? Oh, that's great. I love it. Absolutely exploring the supernatural. one comic at a time. And then it's Frontline Combat. That is right. It's an EC. Super happy to add this to the collection. Now, here's a book that actually had everyone who saw it crack up. There were two separate guys at the shop who this book's hands passed through before it got to me, and they both laughed at it. 50 miles an hour? That's ridiculous. We haven't even been out an hour. Next up, it's Life with Archie. This was an interesting little title. Ordinarily, the Archie comics had a tendency to come down on short stories, which were a little sillier in nature. This had a tendency to take the gang on full-length tales, which were much more fantasy or speculative fiction in nature. Here they are in some weird future world. Ronnie taking full advantage of the fashion available to her, while Archie is befuddled by this passerby. And then, oh, hey, here's Jughead on death's door. Will he make it? Well, you'll just have to tune in next week to find out. Okay. And then here we have the transition into Archie as Pureheart the Powerful. That is right. Superhero incarnation. Although I prefer Super Teen. That's Betty's superheroic incarnation. But I was thrilled to pick up this. It's a key issue, don't you know? It's the first Reggie as Evil Heart. That is right. So when the movie comes out, you can bet I'll be sitting pretty. I can retire from all of this. I can just sit back and watch the birds. Speaking of birds, man, dig these groovy vibrations. This is Archie's Madhouse in their attempt to appeal to the hip teens of the time. And this is a fun little book. Now, I hadn't noticed when I bought this that someone had, well, slightly defaced it. I don't know. It's still good. But I had to have it for this back cover alone because, well, there's a view of Sabrina that you don't see very often. Huh. Okay. And then Marvel Collector's Items Classics. That is right. It's a #1, folks. And what self-respecting kid could have possibly passed this up, even if you had these books back in the day with the striking purple cover showing you everything that you get? It's Fantastic Four #2, Amazing Spider-Man #3, Tales to Astonish #36, and Journey into Mystery, which is a rare collector's item find, the very first story, which has the Tales of Asgard featurette. So yeah, it's a king-size bullpen book. Demand it at your local newsstand. And then here's a Collector's Items Classic #2, following it up a year later. And here's a book that I actually needed to complete my run. It's Marvel Superheroes Present The Black Knight. And I'd long wondered about this book. And I gotta say, I was a little disappointed. Not really the best written of stories for the time. You know, I would have liked to have seen a little more done with the Dane Whitman character. But I guess it was enough to get him off the ground. And this Marvel Superheroes book, it's still affordable, and it gives you the opportunity to get some very interesting stories that aren't often reprinted. And then Marvel Superheroes #26. And what can I say? I was really captivated by this cover. I just like the colors, to be honest with you. And I'm a sucker for a Daredevil in his red and yellow suit, for sure. So you team up Daredevil and the Hulk and throw in some X-Men. Oh, man, you're batting 1,000, aren't you? You betcha. And then it's Marvel Tales, because you know I love some Marvel Tales. And here he is again! Daredevil popping up in that yellow suit. And then what do we have? It's Marvel Tales. And it's the Crime Master. That is right, with the Green Goblin looking on. And then we also have some Thor and some solo Human Torch stories. That is right, for all you Dory Evans fans. All 4 of you. And then Bring Back My Goblin to Me. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think that they had to mess around with this cover a little bit for the reprint. The original, I think that the Goblin was on this side, and maybe the text was over here. Larry, can we drop that in? Yeah, we'll drop that in. Larry's very eager for you to watch this film, so we'll blast through the rest of these. Hey, it's more Seymour! That is right. If the first batch of Seymour wasn't enough, you've got even more to get through. And this was Archie Comics attempting to, give you even more of the same thing under a different cover. And, I guess it worked because I bought it. And then what do we have? All right. Now we're beginning a fun little run of EC Comics. These are Panic. Now, Panic was the official parody of Mad Magazine because, as you well know, EC published Mad, and because of Mad's success, well, there were a number of imitators, and EC figured, well, if anyone's going to imitate Mad, it's going to be us. And so here we have, I'm not sure which issue this is, but Smitty is the parody story in there. And then, this is a very striking cover, or, it would have been back in the day, very stark white cover. It's a little less white right now, but this is no magazine. This is a Panic. That would definitely catch your eye on the newsstand. And then, ha-ha! Check that out. Absolutely. And when you're done reading it, you can pat your tiger. You bet. That's why there are so few issues left, because, we all know how those tigers can tear. And then here's a really nice issue of Panic featuring a little gag cover. Absolutely. Now, in the past, I've shown you my reprints of these. Ha-ha! Which one is the phony? Only Basil Wolverton knows for sure. And then we have, it's some pep. That is right. This is a nice little cover featuring a nifty little date stamp, November 5th, 1965. Where were you? And then here's a weird little book. Ordinarily, this isn't the sort of thing that I would buy, but it passed across my desk, and I figured, hey, why not? It's Tor Love Betty. And this is a imagining of a relationship between 1950s film star Tor Johnson and the beautiful and enigmatic Betty Page. And, this is a pretty off-the-wall book. Not much in the way of storylines, but there are some very striking pinups. And I gotta say, if you like paper dolls, well, this would look great in your Yuletide display. Oh, and then I was thrilled to find these. These are Gold Keys UFO flying saucers. Now, I'd only ever seen these books before online, but I was always struck by these guys in their jazzy suits. That's right. Have they come out of hiding? Do aliens roam the earth? That is right. Apparently they're headed directly to Studio 54. UFOs, living creatures, machines, or alien hybrids. Now, I've seen a lot of weird stuff in the skies, but robotic bats shooting atomic fire out of their heinies, well, I gotta say that's a first. But, hey, I'm always watching. And then we're going to wrap things up with some Vault of Horror. That is right. It is beat but complete. It's an EC classic. And I gotta say, well, I've already read it, and it was great. Great fun for sure. It's wonderful to be able to enjoy these EC books, as they were meant to be enjoyed without having to break the bank. You betcha. Okay. What's that? Okay, yes. All right, folks. Next up, it's Larry's film. Larry would ask that you sit down, you dim the lights, you prepare yourself. He's very proud of it. I haven't seen it myself, but he assures me that, he doesn't pull his bird out or anything, so it should be safe for family audiences. Thank you for joining us on this very particular episode of Having a Drink with Mink. I hope to see you this coming Sunday for Comics for Breakfast because Spider-Man month continues. What does that hold? Well, you'll just have to tune in and find out. Okay, for all of us here, to all of you there, cheers.